Today I will be tier ranking the world's greatest haters. This is a part of a brand new video series where I will tier rank any random topic no matter how weird or silly they may be. And if you'd like to be featured in the next video, be sure to leave your request for the next episode in the comment section below. If YouTube never has anything good to watch while you're eating, that's literally the whole point of this channel. So be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. If you need to watch YouTube during every meal of the day, then I'm incredibly confident that you will fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload the weirdest daily content. Alright folks, that's enough. Let's see what we got. So our lucky number one is going to be Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Now let me tell you, I hated Eustace. I hated the way he treated Muriel, and I hated the way that he treated Courage, because I swear this has got to be the most ungrateful person I have ever seen. The intro literally has him calling him a stupid dog like every single opening, and then he gets enjoyment out of scaring him. He's a dog that saves your life. What's wrong with you? Sorry. I have some reservations about Eustace in particular. I will say that he is just a hater, not a massive hater, because like we got some people on here that are massive haters. Up next we got Vicky from The Fairly Odd Parents. There's something really odd about some of these cartoon ones. These people just get pure enjoyment out of torturing others. When I tell you, Vicky just got like, she was just evil. She was just an evil person that like she makes Doofenshmirtz. Like Doofenshmirtz is honestly a good person compared to Vicky. She has so much hatred in her heart, and for what? To take it out on a 5th grader, an actual 5th grader that she is like babysitting. Isn't she like a sociopath technically? Because she puts up this facade in front of everybody. You know, everyone thinks that she's just some angel, right? But then when she's alone with Timmy, oh my god. But you know, I say all that, I'm not gonna put her in the massive haters category. I'd still put her with like Eustace, but like if Friday Eustace. Up next, you can really only see his chiseled body, but we got Dragon Ball Z Broly. To those of you who don't know, Dragon Ball Z Broly and Dragon Ball Super Broly, two different Brolys. One of them is not canon, not really a part of the main storyline, and the other has a like genuinely well-written tragic story. But the one that we are talking about today is not the tragically written one, it's the one that was just horribly written. You see, the new Broly, he is like being controlled with like a shock collar by his father, and he is like this tragic character that has never felt what it's like to be loved or properly, you know, had a friend or anything like that. So the moment that like his father could like control him as much as he could, it was only to really fight, and that's what makes him technically the villain of the story. But that is not the person we are talking about. The one that we are talking about is Dragon Ball Z Broly. Now this man, he heard Goku crying when he was a child, and so when they were adults, he wanted to murder him to the point where he couldn't control it. He lost control of his entire very being because he needed to kill Goku. He hated Goku's entire bloodline. Gohan, Goten, Chi-Chi, hell, anybody caught the hands if they were related to Goku in any way. Hell, if they've like lived or breathed near Goku, you were public enemy number one against Broly. You know why? Because he didn't like hearing Goku scream as a child. He did not like hearing him cry, so much so that he was willing to murder them years later. Years. That's one of the ones where I'd say he is a massive hater. The legendary Super Saiyan Broly. Yet another cartoon one. What was even his name again? Okay, so up next we got Bubble Bass from SpongeBob, the pickles guy, the one who like just consistently kept going into the Krusty Krab just so that he could give them a bad review, because he just like, man, it's been years actually. I thought I would know this off the top of my head. Okay, from what I remember, he kept saying that there were no pickles in his sandwich, and then it was like revealed at the end that he like was hiding pickles under his tongue. Why was he doing? What was the point? Was it to get a free meal? Was it because he just didn't like SpongeBob? Like, I genuinely cannot remember why, but you know what? You know, I'll just put him into the haters tier list not nearly as much of a hater as Eustace. So you guys may know The Rock, but I don't know how many of you really know about the final boss, The Rock. The final boss is different, okay? The Rock, for those of you who don't know, was actually a wrestler long before he was actually actor. And he, after the failure of the Black Adam movie, he came back to wrestling and he played a bad guy. But that wasn't the plan. You see, he actually was going to steal the main event of the biggest show of the year from this other guy, Cody Rhodes. But the fans, they didn't like that. They started this chant, you know, we want Cody, and they had to pivot. They had to pivot because they realized the people, no matter how big of a star The Rock was, did not want The Rock. So they shifted. He owns like a portion of WWE, so he played this big boss character. He was, you know, he was the authority. You know, if he says what the main event is, if he says that a napkin fights The Rock, then a napkin will fight The Rock. He's power hungry. You know, he wants to destroy the underdog. That was his character, and he was so good at it. The greatest run of The Rock's career that I've ever seen, and like the greatest road to WrestleMania that anyone has seen in a very long time. It was all because he became this giant big bad that you felt his presence looming over the WWE even when he wasn't there, and that is fucking impressive. But the point that I'm trying to make here is he made Cody Rhodes' life a living hell because he wanted to take the main event away from him, and the audience wouldn't let him. Even when the cameras went off air and there was people still in the audience, The Rock was whooping Cody's ass to the point where he was bleeding all over the parking lot. And he wouldn't stop. And the thing is that it's scripted entertainment, and he still kept going. So I'd put him right at the front of haters, right at the front, because he did not, after that 4-month stretch on the road to WrestleMania, he didn't really come back to do much after. We got another character from Fairly Odd Parents, Mr. Crocker. Why was he so obsessed with a 5th grader? I would love to think that it's because of just pure hatred, but why would someone hold that much hate in their heart for a child? I think that my hot take is that he's a creep. I always thought that Mr. Crocker was a creep because of how obsessed he was with Timmy Turner. If there was a creep level in here, I'd put him in there, but I'm putting him into massive haters because that man, as a grown-ass man, had nothing better to do but to dedicate his entire life to making Timmy's life a living hell. Candace. Candace from Phineas and Ferb. I hated her with all my heart. I hated Candace so much. She was like the biggest tattletale in the world, but she never got away with it. And I think that's why I'm not really gonna rank her too high. But every episode, you could see the only time she'd get pure happiness and joy in her body, her very existence, her very being, was only when she was like, oh yeah, they're gonna get in trouble. Oh my God, I hope that's not as bad as it sounded, but still, for someone who gets pure joy out of ensuring the destruction of her own family is someone who's a hater in my book. Golden Freddy. Now this is a out of left field one. Golden Freddy has got to be our first god tier hater on this list because it's so justified, so justified. This is one of the, I believe this is the first one that was murdered, and like this child is dedicating its entire afterlife to getting sweet revenge. If you guys go through all the games, I believe Golden Freddy is in all of, like, you know, the scary ones obviously, but there was one where you're up against all of the animatronics across all of time, and I believe you're playing as the murderer in hell, and like Golden Freddy is like the ever looming thing that can't let go. The Golden Freddy is the only one that can't get over it. They need to keep hurting him. They need to keep doing it over and over and over again. You think to yourself, this is justified. This is a character. This is a person whose life was ended so early, and they've now been dead longer than they were ever alive, and they have the person who's responsible for that within their hands to be in charge of their own personal hell. So yes, not only is this our first god tier hater, they deserve it in every way. That's just my opinion. Okay, Sergeant Dokes. let's not get it twisted. I know a lot of people love Dexter. I know a lot of people love him, and I love the show. He's very interesting characters, very well written. Some corny stuff in there for sure, but it's a fairly well written show for its time. Dokes was a detective doing detective work. He knew that Dexter was a serial killer. He knew this. He knew there was something up at the very least, to the point where he was willing to launch a full investigation into him, and he did not like him. One thing that Dokes is he's honest. He was always very honest. Surprise, motherfucker. Obviously, he's going to want to catch the murderer. Anyone who was against him, like, dog, do you not see the shit that Dexter is doing? Like, yes, he's doing it to criminals, but you gotta understand that Dexter isn't doing it because he wants justice. He's doing it because he'd rather just do it to criminals instead of do it to innocent people. That's what people tell me morals are, but, you know, Dokes is actually valid. He's not even in kinda justified. He's actually valid for hating Dexter, because he didn't hate people that weren't serial killers. Next is Gus Fring. I think people often forget he dedicated, I think, 90% of his career to building an empire to the point of self-sufficiency so that he wouldn't have to rely on the cartel that murdered his it was very ambiguous. It was either husband or boyfriend or brother. You couldn't really tell, but you knew that whoever the cartel murdered, it was someone of great significance and great love to Gus Fring. And he built this entire empire so that the day would come that he could murder that person, okay? And he waited 20 years patiently waiting, ensuring that everyone responsible would get their lick back someday. It's revealed in Better Call Saul that he wouldn't even let them die unless it was by his hand. Now that is some of the most god-tier hater shit I've ever seen. Now, I wanted to put the Joker on here, and it was not even because he is a hater. I see him on a lot of these lists, and I'd just like to point something out. The Joker is not a hater. He doesn't hate Batman. He doesn't hate anybody, really. He doesn't feel complete without Batman, and that's what makes his character so complex, is that he goes insane when Batman is around, and that's like the representation of, like, you know, you complete me. I'm the real me with you, and without you, I'm the shell of my former self. And so when Batman is no longer around, the Joker goes sane. The idea of that is just such a complex and interesting thing that I just wanted to point that out. I wanted to point out that although I see the Joker on these lists a lot, he is not a hater. So I guess the only place I could put him is actually valid. Chuck McGill. There is a special place in hell for Chuck McGill. Oh my God. I hated him so much while I was watching this show. I genuinely believe if he had just shown a modicum of support to Saul throughout the entirety of seasons 1 and 2, Saul Goodman would not have ended up at a Cinnabon by the end of the series, okay? I think that Chuck could have been a good brother at every moment. At every moment, he had every chance to be a good brother to Saul, but he chose not to. He chose to go down the path of making sure that he could be held down, because he didn't like the idea of a Saul or a Jimmy McGill that could exist as an equal. He didn't want Jimmy to be an equal. He didn't even think that he was capable of it. But when people started seeing him in that light, Chuck freaks out and will do anything at all costs to bring him down, in the name of the law, of course. So fuck Chuck McGill. He's going into god tier haters. The Reverse Flash. I am an admirer of his work. Oh my God. I am such an admirer. He's my hero. He is my hero. The Reverse Flash dedicating like all of his life, all of it, to destroying Barry Allen, because they cannot exist without each other, but they must constantly come into battle. Like, not that they always have to, but they always will. Like, it's such an interesting dynamic, and I think it's explored moderately well for its time in the CW's Flash, but the Reverse Flash has so much potential on the big screen in this new DC universe to thrive on a level that we have never seen before. And I think that's just such an interesting thing that we haven't gotten to see. A lot of people praised James Gunn for how much of a hater that Lex Luthor was, but Lex Luthor is half the hater that the Reverse Flash is. The Reverse Flash will do whatever it takes to ruin Barry's life. If he can't kill Barry, he will torture and torture and torture and bring him back to life if he dies, just to make sure that the pain can continue. That's how much of a hater Reverse Flash is, and he's my hero. So he's another god tier hater. I would say that he's up there with Golden Freddy for sure. Lex Luthor. He's consistent with his hatred. He hates metahumans, and like aliens are a bit of a like slippery slope, but you know, he just considers them all abominations, depending on which one, of course. Like I said, he's a bit complicated, but Lex Luthor overall, I think we're all in agreement. He's at the very least a massive hater. J. Jonah Jameson. J. Jonah Jameson is gotta be one of the craziest characters, because I've never seen an actor universally agreed upon as like the definitive actor across multiple versions of the character. Like the closest we've gotten to that is maybe Wolverine, but that's still very recent. Nah, J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons specifically, has got to be like a top 10 hater of all time, because the way he was moving, the moment he saw a picture, mass menace destroys town, he didn't even need to think about it. He was like, write it up right now. That's all I got on my mind. All I got on the brain is Spider-Man, and I love it. I'm gonna put him, honestly, would it be crazy to put him in Kind of Justified? Would it be crazy? Kind of Justified, because why is a vigilante going around in a mask without telling anybody who he is? All right, my bad. Okay, next we got Seto Kaiba. Oh, one of the greatest drip gods of all time. Okay, Seto Kaiba will, I remember he never got to have his last duel with the Pharaoh before the Pharaoh passed on to the afterlife. So Kaiba dedicated his entire company's fortune, his inheritance, everything, to making a device so that he could pull up on the Pharaoh in the afterlife just to duel him one more time. He didn't care where the Pharaoh was. He didn't care if he had to cross like dimensions. He didn't care if he had to cross into the afterlife. He was gonna get his lick back no matter what. That's the kind of dedication you don't even see in a loving wife, okay? Seto Kaiba has got to be one of the most innovative haters of all time, but he was justified because it was purely out of love for the sport. It wasn't because he hated the Pharaoh. It wasn't because he even wanted to kill him. This is one of the very few people on here that doesn't actually want to kill the protagonist. He just wants to be better than him. So I will put Kind of Justified. Frieza. Well, he is definitely a hater. Like, I've never seen a villain stick around in a series this long without a redemption arc. Like, they tried to give him one, like in the final season, you know, in the final arc with the Tournament of Power. But one movie later, he's already on some I want to kill Goku shit. I love Frieza and how much of a hater Frieza is, but yeah, he's another one of those god tier haters. He's insane. I'll put him behind Golden Freddy. This is a bit of an interesting one. Brock Lesnar. He's a real person, but we're not talking about the fictional character he plays. We're talking about Brock Lesnar. If you look up every black champion in the WWE, Brock Lesnar has dethroned every single one of them. Mind you, this is a scripted sport, the WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. So that means that they ensured that he was going to win. It wasn't by chance. It's not just a coincidence. No, every black champion in all of WWE history has been dethroned by Brock Lesnar. I can't prove anything, but I'm putting him in the haters category. I can't prove it, but up next is Eddie Brock Jr. from Spider-Man 3. I'm putting him in with haters, because need I say more than him just praying that Peter Parker died? Zamasu, he wanted to murder all mortals because of one little instance he had where he watched mortals fight each other. Kill them all. like start from scratch, and he was dedicated. It took an actual god to stop him. So I'm gonna put him in with god tier haters. Syndrome, he's kind of a massive hater for wiping out like all of the supers, right? He like completely murdered so many of them, all because like Mr. Incredible didn't want Incredible around. Can you imagine if someone came up on you, you're in the middle of a massive fight, and some fuck ass little kid goes, "And Incredible, no," like get the fuck out of here. And he was mad at Mr. Incredible for being like, "Oh, you won't have me as your sidekick?" Like, dog, did you see yourself? And he murdered all of those like heroes so that he could be like, if everybody's super, then no one will be. Like, bro, so yeah, he's going into the massive haters side. Next is the Green Goblin. Ugh, my Shayla. I don't see enough people talk about this. So like when Green Goblin, like we know how much of a hater he was in Spider-Man 1. So let's go to No Way Home. You remember how Doc Ock, you know, he attacks Peter Parker, or he attacks Spider-Man, and then as soon as it's revealed, you know, that's Tom Holland, you know, Doc Ock, you know, takes off the glasses. He's like, "You're not Peter Parker. You're not the guy that I was trying to just kill." And Green Goblin was like, "I don't care. If you got a spider on your chest, your ass is mine." He did not give a fuck. And that is, I've never been more inspired in my life. It didn't matter the universe he was in, Spider-Man is always gonna catch Green Goblin's hands. I love it. Squidward, I'm just gonna say this now, he was valid, okay? I'm now starting to realize as an adult, like if I had a neighbor that constantly was like, "What's up? Hi, 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 hi," and was like constantly making noise right outside my window, and then I had to go to work and listen to him do that shit all day, destroying the kitchen, massive like blowhorn for an alarm clock, I would hate him. Okay, I would hate him. I would do everything I could to move away and out and everything. And the fact that I have two neighbors like him, that's kind of fucking crazy. Squilliam Fancyson, he's a passive hater. He's a passive hater. It's all in good fun, kind of like Seto Kaiba. Like he just has like a kind of professional rivalry with Squidward, so I'll let it slide. Now Thorfinn, okay, he's the last one. This was a fun one. Okay, so Thorfinn, if none of you know, his dad was murked by this one guy, and Thorfinn was like, he decided to join the crew of the man who murdered his father, the pirate crew of the man who murdered his father, so that he could stick around, grow up, learn, and then eventually kill him. Like he was like, "Oh, I will stick around, I'll follow you to the ends of the earth until I can have my lick back," because he's like a child when his dad is murdered. And the big thing about it is that he like works his entire life towards this one goal, and then at the very end, when he's finally strong enough, his revenge gets taken away from him. Someone else gets it before him. And that is a very interesting plot, but we're here to talk about the hate in his heart. I think that he should go up there with the justified list because he did it out of pure vengeance. He did not take it out on anybody else. He had his eyes on the prize, and that was it. So yeah, I'm gonna put him into actually valid. Alright, so this is the tier list that we have. Thank you guys for watching. Please, by all means, take a look at this list. Tell me what you would do differently. Come on, get out. Have a good one.